Are we all set now? Okay, thank you so much for coming, ladies and gentlemen. I want to discuss with you today my findings regarding voter fraud and the abuses within our election system. First, let me make it perfectly clear. I'm not a government employee. I'm not an elected official. I do not speak to you in any other way except that I'm a political activist who requested public information. I've been around Maine politics for about 30 years. I've been concerned with voter fraud for a long time, going back to my early years as a member of the Maine legislature. Republicans and mayors and Maine people have complained for years about our laws. Republican legislators have introduced thoughtful changes in voting laws, and for over 35 years, the Democrats in power have refused to even listen to Maine people regarding these important issues. I have witnessed, personally, special interest groups who, in my opinion, appear to promote election fraud. These special interest groups participate in what I like to call poll flooding. Groups who flood the polls and overwhelm municipal clerks, oftentimes actually misleading potential voters, knowing that voting is a responsibility and individuals must be a resident or declare residency to vote here in Maine. These special interest groups simply fail to inform individuals and voters the requirements of Maine law. Our election laws need reform, and in my opinion are abused. I believe that there are those involved in Maine elections who would rather win elections first, even if others are disenfranchised in the process. Even if winning means stretching the rules or looking the other way, anything to win. I suggest that in many cases individuals are actually exploited by these groups, used to get their vote, but never explain the other requirements of Maine law. I believe the end result could be legal action, now that the fraud has been detected. 3 weeks ago, I made the decision that my secretary and I would begin the process of investigating and discovering if we could find signs of fraud in our system. Even though we've been told that only 2 cases existed over the last 35 years, we believe it's hard to find abuse unless you make a real effort to do so. In about 7 or 8 days on the telephone, we were able to find serious problems within our election laws, and what I believe is fraud and abuse. Today I will be hand-delivering the names of 206 individuals that have committed, I believe, have committed voter fraud here in Maine. Included in these lists are international students attending college here in Maine who voted in Maine but may not even be American citizens. Others who voted twice in Maine and in their own state in the same election. All of these names are individuals who claim another state as their residence. Many of these names involve individuals who are either registered in another state and registered here in Maine, contrary to Maine and federal laws. Several of these out-of-state students vote in and out of Maine selectively, sometimes at home, sometimes in Maine. These actions are simply wrong and, I believe, illegal. My research was limited to public information available to me from Maine's public universities. Frankly, the Maine Press Corps, or any other of Maine's previous attorney generals or secretaries of state, could have simply done as I did and researched this information. Obviously, had this research been done, other cases of potential voter fraud would have been found years ago. Maine law allows anyone who is a resident of Maine to vote in our elections. Anyone who chooses to vote also is required to meet other obligations of law. Maine residents must pay an income tax. New residents who move here from another state must register their car, if they have one, and change over their driver's license to a Maine license within 30 days. That's Maine law. My research was centered on out-of-state students who come to Maine colleges on out-of-state tuition. These students actually pay more to attend school here because they are out-of-state students. They are actual residents of another state. They have driver's licenses in another state. They register their car in another state. My research actually found, for the purpose of the census, many of these students claimed their parents' home for the purpose of residency during the 2010 census. These 206 cases are only from Maine's public universities. They don't include students from Bates of Colby Bowdoin, College of the Atlantic, or other places where there are far more out-of-state students. My research also better allows me to understand what it means to declare residency. Anyone can choose Maine as home. Doing so does require other decisions. A great example would be our military, men and women. They can choose Maine as their residency, and many do. For those who do, they are allowed to vote in Maine, drive in Maine with a Maine driver's license, and fish in Maine with a Maine fishing license. They may live in another state, or even in another country, but as long as they choose Maine as their residency and obey the other laws of residency, they may vote here. They are not allowed to vote where they are stationed. It's a simple law. You vote where you declare your residency. After this press conference, I will be presenting my findings to the Secretary of State. I am hopeful that he will be able, with his personnel, to further research these names. I am hopeful that Secretary Summers will forward his findings to the Attorney General for whatever actions he might feel are appropriate. On a final note, the simple fact is 206 people, 206, on out-of-state tuition here are actually voting to decide who will represent our communities in the state legislature. This ought to concern Mainers. I don't even care who they vote for. I can't go to Massachusetts, visit my daughter, and become a resident for a day and vote there. This fraud is outrageous. Every November, people in Maine gather and vote on serious matters affecting their communities. Not only state issues, but also very important local issues. Should we build a new school building? Should we increase local property taxes to expand the fire department? In the last election, a recount was held in Gorham, Maine, for a legislative house seat. The winning candidate won with 36 votes. In Gorham, in the last election, my research finds that 51 out-of-state students voted. These out-of-state students could have made the difference on who would represent those Mainers living in Gorham. I ask you, who is disenfranchised in this scenario? Individuals who are not residents should not vote on local matters. I am convinced that my research proves that fraud is a problem, and I've only found the tip of the iceberg. Hopefully, Secretary Summers and Attorney General Snyder will immediately expand my research and will work with their teams to assure that Maine elections are free of fraud and the integrity of our system is upheld. Thank you. I'll answer any questions you have.